Just ahead on American Black Journal, the case involving pro football player Ray Rice has put domestic violence in the national spotlight. We've put together a panel of guests to discuss how the NFL is handling the situation and how we can prevent domestic abuse. Plus, Focus Hope prepares to welcome thousands of people to an annual event on its Detroit campus. We'll have the details, so stay with us.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.
Welcome to American Black Journal. I'm Stephen Henderson. Controversy continues to swirl around the NFL about how the league is dealing with players accused of domestic abuse. There are allegations that officials knew long ago of a videotape showing Baltimore Ravens running back Ray Rice knocking his future wife unconscious. But it wasn't until the video went public that the NFL decided to suspend Rice indefinitely. Meanwhile, there have been at least 6 other recent cases involving NFL players and domestic abuse. Of course, domestic violence is not just an NFL problem. It's a serious problem throughout the United States. Here in Michigan, 1 in 3 families are impacted by domestic violence, and 40% of women ages 16 and over have been sexually assaulted. So joining us today to talk about domestic violence in and outside the world of sports are Beth Morrison, who's president and CEO of Haven, Drew Sharp, who's my colleague at the Detroit Free Press, a columnist there, and Dr. Lynn Lewis, a therapist and relationship expert. Welcome to American Black Journal.
Thank you.
I wish I was having you here to talk about something more cheerful, but this is what's in the news right now, and it's a really serious problem, and I'm frankly confused about what role I think the NFL should be playing in this. I mean, they're taking a lot of heat for the way it's been done. What would have been the right way to deal with this, before and after?
Well, I think before, the NFL has a huge fan base. They have a lot of influence in our society and our culture in the U.S. They employ thousands of people around the country, and you look at all the different employees at the different arenas and fields and teams, and the impact that they have really on American life is rather large. So prior to this even becoming, a spotlight for the NFL, they really haven't done anything around domestic violence.
Right.
They haven't made one of their causes. They devote almost all of October to breast cancer awareness, which is wonderful. Yeah. It's a great cause and something that needs a lot of attention. But here's something that impacts more women, more families than breast cancer is really ignored by the NFL and has been for decades.
Right.
Yeah, the league's problem right now is that they cannot create a logical explanation why initially, before we saw the second video in the elevator, why did they think that 2 games was a sufficient punishment for domestic abuse?
Right.
They can't give an answer. They're saying that, well, we're wrong, we messed up, we're trying to correct this, but initially you thought you did the right thing.
Right.
And that speaks to the underlying issue here, and it's not just the NFL, it's cultural, it's a national thing. Men in charge of these things, they don't really understand the severity of domestic abuse. And until that happens, whether it's the NFL or not.
You feel like the men in charge of the league.
If you have more women in charge of this, put Connie Rice as commissioner, I think you might have a different approach right now. But I think it starts with that when you have the men in charge who don't really understand the gravity of this, and they do not, when players, in this case, the players in a professional football league, they cross that line, they don't think of it as seriously as they should.
Yeah.
Well, since we don't have women in charge, then it is incumbent upon the men to listen to the women.
Right.
And to involve the women and engage the women. And I think this is an opportunity for the NFL to take a leadership role in addressing domestic violence, not just those who are abused, because that is critical, but also the abusers, because the abusers continuously abuse.
Right.
And if we don't stop that cycle of abuse, then we'll forever have abusers. So I think what the NFL needs to do, pull in women and say, tell us your story. tell us what we can't see as men.
Right.
And listen to them and use this as a teachable and leadership moment.
Yeah, yeah. Speaking of the cycle of abuse, that's something you are really familiar with in your organization. This is what you see, right? That it happens over and over and perpetuates itself.
Well, absolutely, and I think also another point, just to piggyback off what was just said too, is that Ray Rice was not the first NFL player who has been
by far.
Caught, held accountable or not held accountable by the legal community, but been charged, arrested. So the NFL has ignored this problem for decades.
Yeah.
It didn't just come on their agenda now. It's something that they've swept under the rug with no accountability or very little accountability in the past. But back to, I mean, the cycle, we know that children are greatly impacted by domestic violence. We know that those children who are raised in homes where they witness domestic violence have a high likelihood of becoming abusive or abuse
you
themselves.
come to think it's normal.
Not to say that it certainly is not the case for all.
Right.
But without any kind of intervention, without any kind of appropriate role models, without any communication within society about what's right and what's wrong in a relationship, it makes it much more difficult.
Yeah.
And that should be the story now, Stephen. That should be the story about how we can help break this cycle. But because of the way our media culture is now, we're all about trying to take down the powerful as quick as possible. So this has become a Watergate-like thing with Roger Goodell. What did he know and when did he know it?
Right.
He is not obstructing justice. Whether he didn't see it or not, no laws were broken, but everyone is just jumping on the commissioner in the NFL because he has lorded himself over the players and saying, I can be judge, jury, and executioner whenever I choose to, and now he finds himself.
So should Roger Goodell lose his job? I mean, I have said a couple times, it seems to me, he probably should lose his job, right?
He should lose it. He could lose his job. He's not going to resign put it that way because the owners are happy. The fact that he's making money for this league.
Right.
And what the NFL is trying to do now is change the narrative and admit that it made some mistakes and is trying to do a better job of understanding the situation. But until the public, though, takes the focus off of punishing the commissioner and point it on the actual issue.
Right.
You can fire Roger Goodell today. Is that going to change the understanding of domestic violence? No.
Right.
Then you've accomplished nothing then.
Right. And it's a societal issue way bigger than the NFL.
Yeah, we live in a violent society, and many persons who are in the NFL and outside of the NFL live in a violent neighborhood, in violent cities, and the people they see oftentimes are exhibiting violent behavior toward others. So we, as Beth said, we need intervention. We just don't need to say, hey, we have this problem. We have to say, look, we have to help those who are abusing, and we have to help those who are being abused.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Men who do this, who engage in this behavior, what is the remedy for that? I mean, I think some people think it's almost too late to intervene after they're doing it. That there is no real redemption from that kind of behavior. Is that true?
I don't believe that. I think that it really starts with the accountability, though.
Mm-hmm. That you don't get away with it.
You don't get away with it. That we are not going to tolerate this behavior. If they're not held accountable, and if people continue to look the other way, if no one addresses it, if no one calls them on the behavior, then they will continue the behavior. And unfortunately, that's what happens now, that unless you are held accountable. But the accountability, you know, and in this case, it's all the focus has been on Goodell, but what about the court system?
Right.
You know, this case started with a court system.
Right.
And did the court truly hold this man accountable for the behavior that he exhibited? I believe that they did not.
Yeah.
Our
And
country
we see
has
that a lot,
we have
right?
really good domestic violence laws on the books across the country. Certainly we do here in Michigan. Not to say that there isn't room for improvement, but unfortunately the laws are not fully enacted.
You have prosecutors who undercharge or
undercharged. We have judge or juries who dismiss or let the behavior go. You know, are somebody even arrested? Are they taken seriously? Are the charges elevated to where they should be elevated? I mean, you face more sanctions for abusing a pet On
yeah,
the first time that you
right.
do, the first time that you're abusive towards a partner.
Yeah. Drew, you said something interesting about the culture being part of the problem in the league. What is that culture like? I mean, I think most people, we watch football, we root for the players. I don't know that I know what the culture inside that league is
The culture is that these athletes are treated as gladiators of the modern day, that they are trained to be have a controlled aggression. It's a violent sport.
Right, sure.
And I'm afraid that the NFL has systematically just kind of condoned that if these guys, we train these guys to be violent.
Right.
And if they can't flip that switch off and they get back home, well, that's just one of the consequences.
Damage, sure.
That has to change. There has to be some type of better understanding that these guys, we put them up on these pedestals, but they are people like everyone else, and they need to have a better understanding, a better grasp of personal responsibility. These are athletes who really didn't have much of a father figure getting into college. Sure. They come to the NFL needing to be taught discipline, things that most of us get taught when we're teenagers. That's part of the problem as well. And that's where the NFL can take a step forward and try to do a better job of educating their players and get them to understand that you have to have respect for yourself, first and foremost, if you're going to have respect for other people. And a lot of these athletes don't.
And they don't get that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, in some ways, this is a problem we see manifest itself with men, but it starts with boys, right?
It starts with boys because oftentimes parents don't even realize how they are teaching their sons to be aggressive. Don't cry, take it like a man. I've recently interviewed a man who was talking about how his father would whip him. And he said he would give me a kunte kinte whipping and say, take it like a man. So by that, a manhood and masculinity then were associated with abuse and
sort of violence.
Exactly. And that's part of the cycle that has to be
learned
broken.
behavior then.
It's learned behavior, it's generational, and it's time for us to really address it so that we won't have others being victimized by this continuation of violence.
Right. What about the women? A lot was made of the fact that Ray Rice's now wife came out and said, listen, this happened, it was unfortunate. He's still my husband, I love him, I'm going to stay with him. There was a lot made of the sort of culture of victims, and people not necessarily feeling free to respond the way they should. What should we be teaching young women, though, about the situation?
Well, I think unfortunately, most often than not, the conversation becomes, what about her behavior versus keeping the spotlight on his behavior? Because his behavior, obviously,
he is the problem.
Led to, I mean, he's the problem, she's not the problem. And unfortunately, we go that way too often. But I think what we teach young girls is what we teach young boys.
Yeah.
We talk about healthy relationships. We talk about gender differences. We talk about respect. We talk about how to solve problems. We talk about how to handle our emotions. And we need to focus on that piece of it, and we need to spend more time having those conversations with boys.
Yeah.
A lot of us want to, you need to talk to our daughters. We need to talk to our daughters.
Right.
Don't take it the first time. Get out. Why? We need to have that conversation with our boys so that there is no first time.
Right.
Don't do it the first time, and that's where we need to spend a lot of our time and energy.
Right. I could have you guys here for another hour, I'm sure, and get to really great stuff, but we're out of time. So thank you for being here.
Thank
Thank you for having us.
Just ahead on American Black Journal, a Detroit organization that's helping people overcome racism and poverty. That's next, right after this look at some important moments in Detroit's Black history.
I'm Ken Coleman with a look back at African American life in Detroit. This week in 1976, Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life album was released by Motown Records. In 1975, WGPR TV 62 signed on air and became the nation's first Black-owned and operated commercial television station. And in 2012, Clara Stanton Jones died at age 99. She was the first woman and first African American to serve as director of the Detroit Public Library. These are significant events this week in Detroit's Black history, taken from the book On This Day, African American Life in Detroit.
For the past 40 years, thousands of Detroit and suburban residents have come together for a Focus Hope event that draws attention to the organization's efforts to fight racism, poverty, and injustice. Eleanor's Walk for Hope features a 4-mile walk, and for the first time, runners will also participate this year. The event was renamed last year in honor of the organization's late co-founder, Eleanor Jositis. The walk takes place on Sunday, October 12th, and will feature entertainment, food, children's activities, and exhibit booths. The money raised will benefit Focus Hope's education, career training, food, and community development programs. I'm pleased to welcome from Focus Hope Bill Wenzel, who's the manager of the Volunteers and Community Outreach Department, along with Rashida Godot, the Director of Workforce Development and Education, and Letitia Ricks, who's a student in the Machinist Training Program. Thanks for joining us on American Black Journal.
Thank you.
for having
Every
us.
time I have someone from Focus Hope on, I have to tell my Focus Hope story, which was that when I was a 12-year-old kid in 7th grade at U of D High, Eleanor Jositis came and talked to us about the responsibility we had as privileged young men, and that we, like everybody else there, were going to come work the food drive. So that was my baptism into the Focus Hope world.
And U of D is still involved.
And U of D is still very much involved. It's such a great organization with such a broad reach, and this walk, I feel like every year just sort of celebrates that whole spirit.
Absolutely. This is our 40th walk this year, and as you said, we renamed it after Eleanor Jositis because this is an event that she loved so much.
Yes.
Bringing people from all backgrounds, black, white, yellow, brown, and red, from Detroit and its suburbs to support our mission.
Yeah, and the number of, I don't know, for people who have not been, you see such a wonderful cross-section of this community at this walk. It's so diverse, and everyone's just really into it.
Absolutely, and it's a family event. We want people to bring their kids, bring the whole family, bring the whole neighborhood, because as you said, live entertainment, great food, and an opportunity to support a great cause.
Yeah. I know workforce development is one of the sort of core, I feel like, growing parts of Focus Hope. Really trying to draw attention to the need in this community for job training.
Absolutely. We have been in existence with the workforce training since 1981. And the effort that we put forth to create the Machinist Training Institute, which is the first program, stemmed out of the inequalities that we saw in workforce development. And there were a lot of opportunities that minorities and underrepresented minorities in particular were not afforded as a result of not having access to the same kinds of training. So the workforce development work that we do at Focus Hope stemmed from that and has really grown to include not just the machinist training, but also information technologies. We've done a lot of partnerships, and our whole goal is to try to make sure that the underrepresented, underserved, and underprepared have access and opportunity to quality training that allows them to find opportunities in industries that are relevant to them.
Right, and you guys work with a lot of employers on the back end to make sure that people are not, going into training and then coming out on the other side and not finding opportunity.
Absolutely, and part of our commitment to that, all of our students are offered lifetime placement, and so that's just demonstrating our faith not only in their ability to get the work, but also in their ability to get on the job, do a good job, and be able to retain those kinds of jobs.
Right. And Letitia, you are a product of the Machinist Training Program. Tell me about where you are in the program and how you got involved.
My mother was a single mother, so I knew as a young child about Focus Hope. Also, my sister was a graduate in '99, so I came to Focus Hope in hopes that I would be just as successful as she was. Now I just got finished with the 3-week Ready, Set, Go program, which is just a preparatory class, and now I'm in the actual machining training class, so it's going great.
Yeah. And what do you hope to do?
Hopefully, upon graduation, I'll be entering into the engineering program that Focus Hope have, and probably get a job into the automotive industry.
Right. And that's really the story that I hear over and over again out of Focus Hope. People like this finding opportunity where they wouldn't find it otherwise.
Absolutely, and to just show you how we've helped change the culture of industry locally, when Focus Hope started the Machinist Training Institute, they interviewed all 487 machine shops in Southeast Michigan, and all but 2 of them had never hired an African American or a woman.
Is that right?
And
Really?
now we've placed thousands over the years.
Right. And what's the reason for that? I mean, obviously, the region's historic racial barriers and things like that play a role, but there's got to be some other explanation too as to why no one had found opportunity at that point. Is it people not knowing or not feeling like they could do it?
I think it's a combination of that.
Yeah.
And even now, even today, there are some folks who don't believe that the population that we serve has the mental capability to do the work. And so we spend a lot of time taking people where they are, helping them not just recognize that they have the potential, because sometimes the person themselves doesn't believe that they are in a position to do something more than what they've accomplished in the past.
Yeah.
So it's really about changing the mindset of a lot of people, not just the student, but also the employers, and helping them understand that they have the ability, and in many cases they have not had the opportunity or the services and support that they need in order to get those opportunities.
Right.
So that's what we commit ourselves to, making sure they're academically prepared, socially prepared, professionally prepared, and also providing a series of barrier mitigations to help them kind of overcome some of those obstacles that have stopped them in the past.
Right, right. What are you seeing in terms of the population that you're serving, in terms of how prepared they are by the schools they were in? That's a running theme here in Detroit my whole life. It seems like we've really struggled to maintain an adequate, a free and adequate public education like the Constitution says we're supposed to have.
I'll answer that this way. Probably about 30 to 40% of the population that comes through our doors, we assess all of them. And about 30 to 40% of them are testing below the minimum level that they need in order to get into our training program. So we generally start at a 9th grade level. We require that you have a high school diploma or GED, so that assumes that you have a certain level of knowledge from high school. That population, that's the 30 or 40%, are testing at 4th and 5th grade levels in math and reading. And they have a diploma that says they graduated from high school. So that's why we initiated the program Ready, Set, Go, formerly known as Fast Track. It's all about academic enrichment, because instead of leaving that gap, we wanted to provide opportunities for them to increase their skill level in math and reading, or computers or communication, so that they can get into a training program or even have entry-level opportunities.
Right, right.
Yep.
So you're doing some of the work
meeting them where they are.
should have been done probably when they were in.
You said that, though.
I said that.
Yes.
I can't say that.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
I would also imagine that right now in Detroit, you guys are seeing, I mean, this is a pretty tough time in the city. And it's a city that where I feel like tough times are the price of admission, because it's always like this.
Right.
But that it's particularly troubling right now. I mean, you've got to be seeing that there's more of a need for opportunity than even there used to be.
There is a great need, but what's so inspiring is that there's so many people that are willing to help and support us. You know, last year we had more than 250,000 of volunteer hours donated to Focus Hope.
Wow.
And we have great supporters like Plastic Omnium, who's the presenting sponsor of our walk. So people all over Metro Detroit are supporting us during these tough times.
Right, right. And are you seeing the demand for your services go up? I know that when I talk to other food banks in the area, they're stretched absolutely thin.
Yeah, I think that we've definitely seen that impact, and some of the other things that we've incorporated, like having DTE Energy on site and providing other types of services that the population that we serve wouldn't normally have access to. Even through our training programs, we've seen an increase in the number of students who have come in who are homeless or who need types of supportive services. So we have DHS on our campus to try to help, again, mitigate some of those barriers that they've had in the past, and help meet some of those kind of growing needs that we've seen in the last few years.
Yeah. Letitia, what do you imagine you might be doing if not for Focus Hope?
I don't know what I would have done. Focus Hope has saved me so much tremendously. The amount of help that they give you is above and beyond what I expected. So I'm just so grateful to be a part of such a phenomenal organization.
Yeah. Talk to me about some of that help. What was it that they were able to do?
Well, initially when I came in to Focus Hope, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. You know, I just had to drag myself in there. So they kind of took me in, embraced me, and refocused me. So, and that's exactly what I needed for my life. So, they help you a lot one-on-one. Teachers are great. If you're lacking on anything, they are willing to stay after school and help you. So I think that's amazing as well.
Yeah.
They help you financially. They help you with clothes. They have a tremendous amount
It's
of
a
help.
real wraparound.
Yes,
Right? It's
yes.
not just
It's
the
amazing.
training.
It's amazing, and it changed lives. Trust me,
Yeah.
it does.
Yeah. Well, anyone can come down to the walk.
Absolutely.
And participate and be part of this organization. And you can always volunteer.
Absolutely.
To work at,
Absolutely.
at Focus Hope.
and support
And
all
you
of our
need
programs.
volunteers
Yes.
all the time.
October 12th.
October 12th. All right, we will see you guys there. Thanks for being here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
That's our program for today. Thanks for watching. You can get more information about our guests at AmericanBlackJournal.org. And as always, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter. Plus, you can now hear episodes of American Black Journal on the radio. So tune in to WDET 1019 FM on Fridays at 9:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. We'll see you next time. Good job.
At DTE Energy, we believe that we have a greater responsibility. We believe that being part of a community means being involved in the fabric of that community, investing time, effort, and resources in the communities we serve. DTE Energy Foundation is a proud sponsor of American Black Journal.